Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm dropping the hammer down for completion on this event, which isn't actually as bad as most of them have been for a while, and I think it's because the fact is, like, we've got so many of these events to do to get the acorns. So basically, I mean, for me, I'm going to be doing normal, heroic, master, and uncollected 100% in order to get those acorns. And there's a few other things I need to kind of like talk about. I may have to put it into another video so I don't kind of overload this one. Now, a lot of you are wondering about these kind of baskets for these acorns, which you get as part of the calendar. Apparently, the calendar will drop tomorrow for UK, or 4 to 6 hours when it normally drops. But, you know, I have been sent some info. Shout out to Smooth86 for sending me details of the event actually in general. And we'll be doing that in a separate video. Just explain that. The calendar will drop in the next 4 to 6 hours, and you'll probably get a chance of doing the epic or whatever difficulty you're going for. But don't worry, we'll have things like grind guides of acorns right the way through to like a little bit of a breakdown of some stuff coming soon. I've got loads of videos planned for this month, but we need to get into like the boss battles and talk about like practical champions, etc, etc. Let's do it. Obviously, just point it out there, look, every time, every month, we all kind of go like, well, what the best champions are. Look, you know, you've got hands down Dr. Doom is going to be there month in, month out. You got Quake. You got Cat Marvel Movie, which I personally am a bit biased on because I've got the rank 2 6-star version. Omega Red is a fantastic champion, as well as Corvus. But there are other options which I'm going to discuss as we go through this video. Kicking things off, Red Hulk does provide some sort of difficulty, but not something I think players will be overly worried about. And again, this is a very straightforward month as opposed to last month, which, well, let's face it, if you had your Ronan and other champions that are able to stun off and kind of break life cycle, but that's another month. But tunnel vision is annoying, so don't replicate stuff. And I like the fact if you can use champions that do heavy attacks, like heavy attack, and then you're able to hit out from it, so like basic. Go into parry, heavy attack. There's no limber on this one, so it's a pretty straightforward fight. Champions that I was using, Cat Marvel Movie, especially with a lot of energy-based damage coming towards you, that can be quite handy. You could utilize Dr. Doom for this, but it's class disadvantage, so it's really a case it's up to you. Bishop can be quite fun as well, that interaction with the energy-based attacks, and as well, you could just go with the villain synergy and have Blade in there for good measures. And that could be a thing if you choose to do it. It's just tunnel vision is probably the most annoying thing. But like I said, find champions that do good kind of heavy attacks and hit out. But, do watch out for points with EMP modification. So whenever the attacker gains a buff, the defender gains an overclock charge, max 10 stacks. So maybe choose champions that kind of work around that. Maybe don't cast things like buffs, which then does cast out maybe a couple from this line. However, the Cat Marvel Movie, even though it does have buffs, it was just a case of like overpowering and damaging the enemy. So lots of choice there. Maybe even Bishop would be better for this, but you know, you do you on choice. Next up, we've got Ghost. Now, Ghost, yeah, fun champion. Mighty Charge is probably the most annoying, but look, let's face it, I think people are able to nowadays like battle through that. One eye open, 100% of the damage dealt to the defender, while they are stunned is dealt back to the attacker. Watch out for that one. I'd probably say that's the main thing. Watch out what you do, especially off from a parry. Maybe your intercept game has to be key. And especially if you're looking to use a champion that does stuff with, say, the previous one, where it was like parry, heavy attack, and doing something nice, then do, again, watch out for that. And maybe champions that could interwork around, you know, class advantage. You've got stuff like Corvus. Corvus may be a better option for this. Maybe kind of even using Dr. Doom on this, but do watch out that maybe if you cast a shock-based damage, that when every time Ghost swipes back and dashes back, that obviously that's going to be converted, that's going to be phased out. So most champions are going to be fine for this. I literally put Beardo in there and said like when I do it, but it's a pretty easy fight if I'm honest. That's probably one of the easiest fights of this particular event. Now with this fight, I don't think you can go wrong with any kind of mystic that nullifies, and as well any champion that power controls, because the end boss is going to be Juan Hyperion. And, oh sorry, I should do it right. Hyperion! If you went to New York Comic Con, I'd learnt that that's a thing. But yeah, let's face it, we all know the name of the game. The frustrating thing about this particular aspect of this game with this champion is that it gets bubble shield. But if you're using certain champions that, you know, I mean, I took it really easy. I used Dr. Doom for this. Dr. Doom is the king when it comes to this. So maybe your intercept game has to be on point. And as well, do look out for things with long distance relationship. and how that kind of weakens you. But the fact I don't think it really matters, especially if you're looking to champions to power control off the SP1. Ignore Corvus. Corvus is in here. I don't know why, because I've selected it. But off the L1, you've got Hawkeye, you've got magic with power control, and as well as power burning, power locking, those kind of things. Very handy champion. Rogue as well, if you can build up to the L2, and if you can say, like, you know, take that power control that you could get there. Rogue's an iffy one, but I'd say, you know, number one with a bullet has got to be Doctor Doom, then it's Hawkeye off their L1, then magic, and again, so many more. As I just said, Mystic Line has got so many kind of staggering champions as well. But let's face it, it is annoying, that champion, and having ones that, and opportunities, don't worry too much about that. I think it's just really bubble shield, and as well making sure that you're putting in those L1s for power control before the enemy's able to get up to an L3. On to Iceman, and I must admit, I was a bit unsure about who to use going into this fight, and as you can see, like, in the left-hand corner is what I used. Colossus is what I used. I didn't use any of the others, but they're there to just kind of point out some other alternatives. Stark Spidey is there, is always putting in work for me, and this has been the only month where I haven't utilized that champion. This month has already been about, like, Doctor Doom, have it front and center, and also Colossus. But Colossus, because it's got that immunity to, like, cold snap and frostbite, then that kind of, like, factors into something that is helpful, especially with what I'm going to discuss further with that champion in a moment. And, like, my two iffy other champions to choose are going to be Mephisto and Morningstar. Morningstar mainly because of the extent of, where is it? Aggressive Fury. Is it Aggressive Fury? It's one of those. It's one of the things that, like, the power game buff, that's one thing. So, like, if the champion has got those two buffs, the power game buff, and as well that other buff. Although, to me, when I look at it, I think it was a passive. Anyway, I could be wrong. Which would be annoying, because obviously with Morningstar, if you smash off an L2, which, you know, is a pretty powerful attack, having two buffs up is going to be very beneficial. But I know that the, let's just a quick look again. I think the Fury, if it allows me to do it, I think the Fury is indeed, yeah, it's not a buff, but it is a passive instead. So that is an iffy one. But yeah, Doctor Doom, Colossus, Stark Spidey, very effective. Doctor Doom's in there for power control aspects. Colossus is in there because of his immunity. He's very, very handy for that. And it was a case with that champion doing some good evading with that champion, and as well making sure that you know, we're putting in that heavy attack and then L2 with the unblockable, because that's the main thing. And one thing to mainly point out, the reason of choosing Doctor Doom and Colossus is they do unblockable specials, especially with the L2, and that's what I was doing with Colossus, and as well with the L1 off of Doctor Doom, which will suppress the stuff with the power gain, and as well suppress the stuff when it comes to the ice armor that the champion possesses. You just got to make sure that you evade away from the special attacks. That's why Stark Spidey is good if you're not very good at evading. Then having a champion that's got evade-based abilities, it's going to be handy for this situation. But that's really kind of like gives you an added benefit. So just don't get hit. That's really the main thing. Okay, now let's move on to Squirrel Girl, but I just want to point out something. As you can see, I've hovered Mr. Sinister here close to these lot, and it just like dawned on me after this fight that even though I was taking like bleed damage, and at times you can't avoid the bleed damage side of things, then it would be good to receive some bleed damage, use Mr. Sinister with the L1, and smash it back in Squirrel Girl's face. I mean, that would probably be a good idea in theory, but it's not something I've been able to do based on the fact that, you know, I just cleared this very easily with the champions that I had. But also Ghost, if you want to like take some bleed damage, and there's an extensive amount, then transferring it would be like an ultimate cheese side of things as well. Clairvoyant as well with the immunity side of things and her abilities. Also Stark Spidey if you want to avoid anything coming in. And as well Iceman and Colossus for obvious reasons being bleed immune. But again, let's delve into this fight a little bit more. And like for it, like this is a very simple fight. I think I went in with an old man Logan thinking, oh, you know, I'll try this out, I'll see what happens. But by the end of it, I was like, I did a lot of damage. Do I want to bring another champion just for the video? And I was thinking, no, I've done it once. You know, it's a case like I'll revisit it on a live stream tomorrow, and we'll kind of go in a bit more. Combo shield's not too much of an issue, just don't get hit. Champions that got strong evade abilities if you're worried about the L1 or the L2. The L2 is, the second part's easier to avoid, but the first part is a projectile, and obviously champions that evade projectiles quite well, especially those that have got the evade side of things. Stealth Suit Spidey would be quite cool for this as well. Didn't consider that only until the point of recording now, and as well as so many other champions nowadays. Robot champions, I don't know if it would be a wise idea bringing them in, so double immunity, nah, just a single immunity, bleed immunity would be quite good. No buffs on the champion, except for the one, I think. Could you use Morningstar for it, or champion to interact with that buff? No, I wouldn't say that that would be a good thing. Power control, of course you can use that. So many options for this champion. Very straightforward. Just avoid the special attacks and have a bleed immunity champion, and you should be absolutely fine with this. Now, first and foremost, I had an idea that I'd use Morningstar and a few other champions for this, but by the end of it, I was like, I ended up just using Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom has been really good to kind of utilize for the first time for event quests, and I must recommend that champion. If he ever comes out of like arenas again, you got to go for him because he's a great champion, as well as him being in a featured. He's an amazing kit champion just for stuff like the resist side of things. That resist saved me from, like, you know, this hasn't cost me a single revive, anything at all, based on Dr. Doom, especially that resist off the special attacks when obviously the enemy hits out. Not to mention the fact that, well, I can power control off the SP1, fantastic, unblockable. And a lot of times I was just kind of like swiping back, hitting into the L1, without even the enemy actually throwing a special attack at all. And it was very rarely one was being thrown at me. But you have to watch out for those two, well, I'd say first beam attack, similar to Sentry. First beam attack and then he rushes towards you. That's something to be warned about. And I think it's going to be like a swipe and then swipe again. So two swipes, but not at the same time. Just like swipe, swipe. Just like that. But obviously I'll try and slow this down as if there's anything playing over the top, or I'm going to play something in a minute, I'll try and slow down the special attacks so you can get an idea. Suppressing with power control may be a good option. Hawkeye could be quite good as well if you're looking for power control again. Also just champions that could just cheese this Archangel maybe. But do watch out with stuff with parry. That's something to watch out about, that not really connecting, and I think that's within the champion abilities to be warned with that. So don't always rely on you getting a parry each and every time. But Ronan could be another example of another option again this month, especially if the enemy champion is building up Fury buffs. That is something to watch out about if you're encouraging that. So personal space, while the attack is close to the defender gains a Fury buff every 3 seconds. That is going to be important because that again points to Ronan being another champion this month that could be used. Now I didn't consider that, but instead I decided to just use my Dr. Doom. But look, if you've got a Ronan and you want to brush off the dust again, or you're still fresh from last month from that Silver Surfer fight, man, go for it. Could be a good option once again if you're struggling for anything. Yeah, just watch out with stuff with like heavy hits and building up the Nova charges, because the champion just gains Nova charges just like all the time. But in any case, this has been a very straightforward fight. As I said, those are the options to consider, whether or not it is going to be Ronan, Dr. Doom. I put Bishop in there for interaction with the energy-based attacks and ramping up damage. Cat Marvel movie, of course, and as well Archangel. But obviously, do bear in mind that there might be some stuff with the parry to watch out for. Make sure you don't get stung by that completely. And yeah, class advantage all the way. Mystics, whatnot. But this has been, as I said, a very straightforward month as opposed to, say, last month, which did feel a little bit sort of more difficult. But, you know, that's always very much subjective, and it's kind of like up to you as a player base whether or not you feel it's... There we have it, guys. That has been the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm going to cut this all up now so it's just a nice little kind of watchable piece. Also, I'm going to try and post another video tonight that kind of looks at the issues of people who have actually been able to do the acorn-based side event. And I'm going to be trying to like cover that as well as a few other things with this. But I will be doing an acorns grind guide probably at some point tomorrow. It just depends on timing, as well as a few other things as well that I want to get done. And as well, check out some other content here and here. And yeah, put in the comment section what champions you used for this event, because obviously I'm not going to say I'm the font of all knowledge. I've just put a small amount of champions, each different boss, because not everybody is going to have those same champions. But good luck to you in the grind. Very straightforward event, better than last month if you want just a quick grind. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye for now.